today there's going to be an announcement of a political campaign coming up. Larry Clayman, the founder of Judicial Watch, has decided to run for the Senate, and he joins us on the telephone this morning. Good morning, Mr. Clayman.
Good morning. Little Florida sunshine.
Tell me a little bit about why you're making this move into politics.
Making the move as an outsider because I want to change things. I want to take Larry Clayman and his government watchdog role inside of the U.S. Senate and fight for not just honesty in government, which I've been doing now for the last 10 years and actually longer than that, but I want to fight against the liberal agenda of Hillary Clinton, the type of agenda that gave us the Hillary health care, the type of agenda that wants to increase taxes, that wants to make things more difficult for the average American by taking money out of their pocket. I want to fight for government waste, to get rid of it. That's what I've been doing, turning over the rocks, looking under those rocks and finding how money has been wasted. Look, we have a National Cowgirls Hall of Fame that we paid money for as taxpayers. And last but not least, for the people of Florida, we have serious issues down here. We have 1,800 miles of coastline. Most of the terrorists from Saudi Arabia were in Florida. Down here, we have 1,800 miles of coastline. Most of the terrorists from Saudi Arabia were in Florida. Mohammed Atta, the ringleader, came through Miami International Airport. No one even checked his visa. I want to have visa expiration dates. This will be one of the first pieces of legislation that I propose, put on driver's licenses and school records to make sure that we can catch these people, and with the exception of Cuba, I want to introduce legislation that bars people from terrorist states from coming into this country. There's no right to be here when we live in a state of emergency. So there are a lot of reasons why I want to run, and I am a Floridian. I love this state. Look, we won the Super Bowl last year. We are the most important state now in terms of deciding elections and virtually anything else.
You're running.
He's been going around the country, and he was head of the Intelligence Committee. He knew what was going on with Osama bin Laden. He did nothing about it, yet he's called for the impeachment of George W. Bush. He's acting in a crazy way. It's time for him to move on.
You have...
Bush, he's acting in a crazy way. It's time for him to move on.
You have... how does an anti-politics candidate run a political campaign? I mean, how will your campaign be different?
My campaign is going to be different, first of all, because I'm going to tell the truth, and I'm going to put it into actions. What I'm known for is not talking, but acting. And the people of Florida can be sure, and the people of the United States, because this is a national as well as a Florida campaign, will know that Larry Clayman does what he says. That's one thing people don't doubt me on. I do what I say, and I'm going to go inside of the Senate, and I'm going to change the rules of how the Senate works. I'm going to make sure not just that Hillary crimes that she's committed, and she has committed crimes from Filegate to everything else, Ken Starr and everyone, let her go. We're going to hold her accountable. But I want to make sure that this liberal agenda of hers and people like Ted Kennedy don't get enacted into law. Because when you take dollars out of the pockets of American citizens, that harms the economy. That's why the economy needs to pick up, because we need to give the money back to the people. And everyone who knows me, and if they want to see more, check out our website at KlaymanSenate.com. We need the help. We need the financial help. People can contribute. That would be great. They know that I don't talk without acting, and that's the bottom line.
You founded Judicial Watch in what year?
I founded it in 1994, so it's almost 10 years.
And what has been your major win in Judicial Watch in terms of legal win?
The major win, and this was the National Journal that pointed this out, is that we became the #1 public interest litigator in the United States. I left Judicial Watch last Friday. I'm very proud of it. I left it in good hands. We helped keep corruption down to a minimum. We are the ones who uncovered most of the scandals during the Clinton administration. We have been nonpartisan. Larry Clayman's a Republican. I'm proud of that. I intend to support the president, but I'm going to be my...
They call you an inexhaustible, litigious gadfly. What do you think of that?
A gadfly because...
I'm sorry, Mr. Clayman, we didn't have your microphone up. Can you start over again?
What I was saying is that one of three isn't bad. I'm inexhaustible for sure. There's no doubt about that. But what I've done is to take a concept, honesty. This is what our first American president, John Adams, talked about. It's what Ronald Reagan talked about. I took honesty and actually held people accountable. And you can call me whatever you want, but the bottom line is I'm going to represent the people of Florida. I'm not going to represent the fat interests of Washington, D.C. I've been fighting them now for a decade, and I have a record. I have a record of holding people accountable on behalf of the American people, and that's the difference between me and some politician up there in Capitol Hill. I'm not going to be wearing gold cufflinks, cavorting around, impress some politician up there in Capitol Hill. I'm not going to be wearing gold cufflinks, cavorting around, impressed with the fact that I'm a U.S. Senator. I'm going to be doing a job to get it done, and then let the people judge me on my actions, not on my words.
Larry Clayman, who's going to be announcing today that he's running for the Senate in Florida. You've seen him many times on this network and on other networks. And he was the founder and has been until last Friday. He was the founder and has been until last Friday the chairman of Judicial Watch. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
We're going to open up the phone lines, invite you to join us. Anything you want to talk about for the next 15 minutes or so. Here's how we'll divide the phone lines. 202-737-0001 if you agree with the president. 202-737-0002 if you disagree with President Bush. In about the Air Force Academy sexual misconduct report that was filed yesterday. We'll have her with us again in just a few minutes. Let me just show you the Detroit Free Press this morning. We get this courtesy of the museum. This is a story. We get this courtesy of the museum. This is a story I haven't seen anyplace else, partially because it's local to Detroit, but it's also a fairly large story. It says, Jim Butters writes that the UAW likely will lose 50,000 workers and the two largest suppliers over the next 4 years as companies close and sell plants and replace only a fraction of the tens of thousands of members expected to retire, analysts said Monday. Under a tentative agreement that the UAW announced last week with General Motors, Ford, Daimler Chrysler, and Delphi and Visteon Corporation, as many as 20 plants or offices could be closed or sold under exemptions to the union's standard contact language. But it isn't those facilities or the more than 17,000 UAW members who work there that will drive the continued decline of the nation's leading industrial union. Many of those people will find other work elsewhere within the companies, so the net loss of jobs is directly linked to the plant closings, or the sales will not be nearly as high. On our open phone segment, we're going to go to Nashville, Tennessee. Actually, I don't see Nashville there, so let's go ahead and try Elk City, Oklahoma. Good morning.
Good morning, Connie. I was listening to Larry Clayman there this morning. I can see that the squirrels are alive and well. About the only thing I've been able to partially agree with this president was a higher salary for our soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Under the type of duty that they've got under him, I don't think they got enough money. And I'm back to the 11th commandment. I don't think they got enough money. And I'm back to the 11th commandment. Blessed he that expected very little, for he shall not be disappointed. And you have a good day.
Elk City, Oklahoma, thank you. Here and now we have this. The announcements, the president proposing several regulations yesterday about religious charities. He says was a most significant step so far in Bush's plan to pursue his faith-based initiative through administrative power after encountering congressional resistance to doing it so through legislation. Bush finalized four changes that he had proposed earlier, including delineating the boundary for religious content of federally funded social service programs. He also proposed changing 6 rules, including a Justice Department regulation, in a way that would allow religious entities to receive forfeited assets, most crucially real estate, under the same restrictions that apply to secular groups. Critics accused Mr. Bush, according to Mike Allen, of eroding the First Amendment, since the changes make it easier for the government to choose which religious groups should receive federal benefits. Back to the phones, Baltimore, Maryland. Good morning, Baltimore.
Yes.
You're on the air, ma'am. Go ahead, please.
Okay. I wanted to say how much I agree with President Bush. I'm 74 years old, and I'm so disappointed to find that so many Americans do not have his vision and dream for the world peace in the Middle East, to bring prosperity to everybody. It's only through prosperity that people are going to be content and we can have peace. But the people seem like they don't have the faith and the trust and his wisdom to take this courage to try to bring peace to the Middle East. And that does bother me, that we don't have people of faith and trust and vision like we used to have.
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
from the Washington Post this morning, if you're interested in going to their website, WashingtonPost.com, former President Jimmy Carter has an op-ed piece there about Middle East, and you can just read it all there. Woodbridge, Virginia, go ahead. Please go ahead, Woodbridge. Let's go to Atlanta, Georgia. Atlanta, Georgia, please go ahead. Atlanta, Georgia, are you there? Atlanta, Georgia is not there. Let me out an hour or so. It's about 10 to 9 here on the East Coast. In about an hour, the president is going to be speaking at the United Nations. We're going to be bringing that to you live here on this network. But here's this editorial in this morning's Baltimore Sun. Don't expect President Bush to look or sound like a man with his hat in his hand when he addresses the United Nations this morning. Don't expect him to United Nations this morning. Don't expect him to apologize either for the way he disdained and in fact misled the United Nations in the months leading up to the war in Iraq, and don't expect him to make much headway. The big speech to the General Assembly is all about reasserting the White to make much headway. The big speech to the General Assembly is all about reasserting the White House position on Iraq, that the world body should step up to its responsibility and give its blessing and support to the American occupation. The president will also talk about AIDS and nuclear proliferation, but uppermost in everyone's mind will be a mental comparison between what he says today and how he says it and what he said a year ago when it was the same forum, and he also called the United Nations to account over Iraq, even as he unconvincingly declared that war was still unavoidable if only Saddam Hussein would give in to weapons of mass destruction. Let's try our phones again. We're going to go to Los Angeles next. Hello, Los Angeles.
Hi, how are you doing?
Fine, thanks.
I was listening to that gentleman from Florida just a few minutes ago and laughing about how President Bush is going to bring a new political tone. He's talking about Hillary's 1990s of trying to give everyone in the country some health care, and he's going to run to Washington, but he's going to overlook all of President Bush's lies. I would assume that guy's running as a Republican. Could you imagine walking into Washington, D.C. today talking about health care, not talking about what the woman who was on before him told back that President Bush is, we're talking about corruption here. Okay, thanks very much.
Gadsden, Alabama. Good morning, Gadsden.
Hello. I was wanting to say that the Senate needs shaking up real bad, and I have a suggestion for Mr. Klayman, and that is to ask for, and I don't know how in the world you ever get it, age limits, a retirement age, age limits, a retirement age.
Why is that?
Because they're getting too old and their brains are getting senile, and they love power too much when they've been up there a long time. And they could also do the same thing for the Supreme Court justices. I believe we would see a much-needed shake-up. You know, the Senate of Rome became one of those hidebound old people interested in their own interests and their families and their friends and things like that. Of course, I'm not saying I was doing that. But I just think it'd be a good idea, and I'd love to see somebody like Mr. Klayman from everybody's state in the union to be fair in the Senate.
From the New York Times this morning, the NASA safety panel, which had been put into effect in, I think it was, it was established after the first major NASA accident. It was established after the first major NASA accident, the Apollo 1 in 1967. All 9 members of that group have resigned, apparently in frustration. Matthew Wald writes that the group, the Aerospace Safety Advisory Panel, was criticized by the Senate Appropriations Committee as failing to foresee problems leading to the Columbia accident, and by a report on the accident released last month that called the panel independent but often not very influential. Panel chairwoman Shirley C. McCarty said in a telephone interview. From the USA Today, you might remember that a journalist, a Reuters TV cameraman, was killed in Iraq last month, and their story gives us a follow-up to that, saying that the U.S. forces didn't violate the rule videotaping near a U.S.-run prison that had been attacked by guerrillas. The Army hasn't publicly announced the rules of engagement for Iraq, citing security of its soldiers, but Lieutenant Colonel George Crivo said that the death of Mazen Dana, 41, outside Abu Ghraib prison was regrettable. And also from the USA Today, an international note, the NATO is going to have a new leader. Here he is. His name is Sept de Hoop Scheffer, and he will take over on Monday as Hoop Scheffer, and he will take over on Monday as the next Secretary General of NATO. He is Dutch. Back to the phones, Fairfax, Virginia.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm still concerned over you recall the incident of the Ten Commandments down in, I think it was Alabama.
Sure.
Being removed from the courthouse.
Mm-hmm.
And it disturbs me. Not only am I a lawyer, but I'm also a former government teacher. And it concerns me that Americans don't seem to understand our past and our history. In that our common law actually was biblically based and recognized as such in our country for 200 years, and by our Supreme Court. The courts called us a Christian country. And in fact, this idea of separation of church and state, if you go back to our founding fathers, the people that attended the Constitutional Convention, most of the states, if you look back in their constitutions at the time, their members could not even attend most of the states. If you look back in their constitutions at the time, their members could not even attend the Constitutional Convention without believing that the Bible was a holy book inspired by God, and that they were Christians in their belief. And so they certainly did not intend that. In fact, the whole concept of separation of church and state that's presented now as being constitutional was a letter from Thomas Jefferson that adopting an individual Protestant religion as being a state church. That was the inquiry. And all of the court cases cited Jefferson's letter for many years until the 1950s in this country. So really, we need to get back and look at how our country was founded and what our founded fathers essentially meant and what it was based upon. And really, the biblical precepts were the foundation for our country, and we've been blessed because of it.
Thank you. Last call for this open phone segment is San Antonio.
Yes, hello?
You're on the air, sir.
Yes, I want to weigh in on Larry Clayman.
Sure.
Before he gets on Fox News and starts spreading his propaganda. Larry Clayman was part of the 90s conspiracy to bring down the Clintons. That 90s conspiracy to bring down the Clintons, that's why he formed his little group. He's never, ever done anything else to any Republicans, any conservatives. All he is a Clinton basher, and the people of America need to smarten up and just not listen to these people anymore. All those scandals were lies. And
call. Well, here's some programming notes coming up. Of course, the House and Senate in today. The House is in at 12:30. Excuse me. Yes, the House is in at 12:30 for morning hour, 2 p.m. for legislative business. The Senate is in at 9:30 for morning business and should begin interior appropriations about 10:30 this morning. We will also have coverage of the nomination hearing for Gordon England to be Secretary of the Navy, and we will have live coverage in just a few moments on C-SPAN 3, if you have access to that, of the nomination hearing for Governor Mike Leavitt to be the head of EPA. Also a reminder that the Veterans Affairs Secretary, Mr. Principi, and the Affairs Secretary, Mr. Principi, Anthony Principi, will be on the C-SPAN Washington Journal tomorrow morning beginning at 7:45 a.m. Eastern Time to take your calls. Well, the C-SPAN school bus is out west, one of the two of the C-SPAN school buses, and it is on a bus tour going around to some of the bus tour areas in the communications area of Bresnan Operations at Bresnan Communications. Good morning, Mr. St. Marie.
Hi, Connie. How you doing this morning?
I'm fine, thank you. And where are you this morning?
Well, Connie, I'm in Craig, Colorado, actually. I'm en route from Grand Junction to Fort Morgan, Colorado. We had a great day with the bus yesterday in Grand Junction. We visited Grand Junction High School and Fruita High School and stopped by our office, and we met with a lot of students and told them a lot about C-SPAN and how C-SPAN and Bresnan are partnering together to obviously, on the one hand, put the programming on, and we're in the midst of a big effort here company-wide to put C-SPAN and C-SPAN 2 on our lowest level of service, and of course, talking to the kids about how C-SPAN is an excellent educational resource for them. And so we had a good day talking to the kids and letting them know what C-SPAN was all about.
Well, the bus is going to be in Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah. How many systems do you have in there, and what is the range that you have?
Well, we're going to nine cities in 3 states, so we're covering a lot of territory out there. We're going to be in Fort Morgan today. We're going to Laramie, Wyoming, Casper, Wyoming, Jackson, Wyoming, Cody, Wyoming, and then we're going north to Bozeman, Montana, Helena, Montana, and Missoula, Montana. In fact, our president and CEO, Bill Bresnan, is going to be with Cody and Bozeman and Helena and Missoula, so that's going to be great. We're going to have I guess they're going to tape Washington Journal next week up in Bozeman.
Absolutely.
And talk to Senator Burns and Senator Bucket, so that should be exciting.
How big is Bresnan Communications, and how long has it been around?
Well, so that should be exciting.
How big is Bresnan Communications, and how long has it been around?
Well, this is our second incarnation of Bresnan, actually. We just closed a transaction with AT&T where we bought these properties in the Rocky Mountain area. It's about 310,000 customers. We do business in about a little over 200 communities in these states, and they're just really great communities. And we've been at it now for about 6 months, and I can tell you it's really great to be back in the business. Bill has been in the cable industry for 45 years. I tell you, it's really great to be back in the business. Bill has been in the cable industry for 45 years, and we're just so pleased to be back in. And of course, Bill has just recently been put on the board of C-SPAN, actually. So it's involved in our communities, and Bill has always been a great proponent of that. And this partnership we're having today and this next couple of weeks with C-SPAN is just a great example of that. And we thank C-SPAN and the folks and all of you folks for the support you're giving us in doing this endeavor. It's great.
Well, all of us back here are jealous that some of the C-SPAN folks have gotten to go to Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana, but we'll live through it. Please tell them all hello for us.
I will indeed. Thank
Terry
you,
St. Marie is Senior Vice President of Operations for Bresnan Communications, which is owned by Bill Bresnan, a longtime supporter of C-SPAN. C-SPAN and C-SPAN 2 can both be seen on those cable systems out in the West. We will be right back in just a few moments. Tilly Fowler, the former Congresswoman, is going to join us. We're going to be talking about the Air Force report that came out yesterday. But first, here is a little bit of our political news from Vaughn Ververs at the Hotline that was recorded earlier today.
Well, while we're waiting around today for